Before we start, I want you to think about every piece of financial advice you've ever trusted. Maybe it came from your parents, maybe a finance influencer, maybe your favorite YouTuber. Now, here's the uncomfortable question. What if some of that advice didn't just slow you down? What if it actually made you poorer? Today, we're exposing some of the most common financial myths in America, advice that has quietly cost ordinary people thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly which financial rules deserve your trust and which ones deserve to be ignored forever. I want you to imagine something for a second. Imagine if the worst financial advice in America came with a warning label, the same way cigarettes do. Imagine if every time someone told you, just don't look at your bank account, ignorance is bliss, a little red banner popped up on their forehead that said, this advice has been known to cause bankruptcy, foreclosure, and decades of regret. That banner doesn't exist. Nobody is stopping these people. And that is exactly the problem because right now, today, there are millions of people confidently repeating financial advice so bad, so destructive, that if it were a product, the FDA would have pulled it off the shelves years ago. So let's talk about the financial advice that should be illegal. Not because it's technically fraud, not because someone gets arrested for saying it, but because the damage it causes is measured in ruined credit scores, drained retirement accounts, and families who trusted the wrong voice at the wrong moment. Let's start with the one that gets repeated more than almost any other piece of financial wisdom in this country. Renting is throwing your money away. You've heard it from your uncle at Thanksgiving. You've heard it from a realtor who coincidentally makes commission every time someone buys a house. You've heard it from finance influencers who bought their house in 2012 when prices were a third of what they are now. Here's the truth nobody wants to say out loud. Buying a home is not automatically a good investment. Property taxes, maintenance, insurance, closing costs, interest, all of that adds up to tens of thousands of dollars a year that many people conveniently forget to mention. If you buy a house you can't actually afford, if you drain your entire savings for a down payment and leave yourself with zero emergency fund, you are not building wealth. You are building risk. Renting is not throwing money away. Renting is buying flexibility, and sometimes flexibility is worth more than equity in a house that ties you down for the next 30 years. Now, let's talk about credit scores because this is where things get almost comical. There's an entire genre of advice online telling people that your credit score is basically your worth as a human being. Keep your utilization under 10%. Never close a card. Open 5 new cards this year to maximize your score. Some of this advice isn't wrong on paper, but the way it's delivered turns ordinary people into obsessive score chasers who forget the actual point of having good credit, which is to eventually use it responsibly and move on with their lives. People are out here stressing over an 8-point drop in their score because they paid off a car loan early, as if a number generated by a private algorithm is the ultimate judge of their character. Meanwhile, that same obsession gets weaponized by credit card companies who love customers who are anxious enough to keep multiple cards open, keep spending just enough to build credit, and rack up interest they don't even realize they're paying because the minimum payment felt so small. Speaking of credit cards, let's talk about the advice that should honestly come with handcuffs attached. Credit card churning for beginners. This is the practice of opening card after card purely to chase sign-up bonuses and travel points, encouraged by influencers who make it look like a fun little hobby. For someone who is financially disciplined, has a 6-figure income, and treats it like an actual system, sure, maybe it works out. But that's not who's watching these videos. It's the 22-year-old with student debt and a part-time job who sees someone flying business class for basically free and thinks, why not me? They open 3 cards in 6 months, they miss a payment because they lost track of which due date belongs to which card, and suddenly they're paying 29% interest on a balance that was supposed to get them a free vacation. The math never got explained, just the vacation photos. Now, here's one that should genuinely be criminal: whole life insurance sold as an investment strategy to people in their 20s. Somewhere out there right now, an insurance salesman is sitting across from a 24-year-old telling them that whole life insurance is not just protection, it's a wealth building tool. It grows cash value. It's basically a savings account with a bonus. What they don't say is that the fees eat your returns alive for the first 10 to 15 years. That a simple term life policy paired with actual investing in index funds would leave that same 24-year-old with dramatically more money by retirement, and that the commission on that whole life policy is the real reason it's being pushed so hard. This isn't advice. This is a sales pitch wearing a financial planning costume, and it has quietly drained more wealth from young families than almost any other legal financial product in America. Let's talk about the debt snowball being treated like a religious scripture. Pay off your smallest debt first for the emotional win, they say. Ignore the interest rates, just chase the small numbers. Look, for some people, the psychological momentum genuinely helps. Fine. But here's what almost nobody adds as a footnote. If your $25,000 student loan is sitting at 4% interest and your $800 credit card balance is sitting at 26% interest, paying off the small one first while that credit card interest compounds is not smart. It's expensive comfort. Financial gurus turn this into a personality, a whole brand, a stage show with people ringing bells and screaming, "I'm debt-free," while conveniently not mentioning how many years of unnecessary interest they paid to get that emotional high. And now the influencers, let's just say it plainly, there is an entire economy built around 23-year-olds with no financial background, selling courses on how to get rich, using screenshots of trading account balances that were funded by the course sales themselves, not by actual trading skill. "I turned $500 into $50,000, and I'll show you how" is one of the most repeated sentences on the internet right now. And it should honestly require a disclaimer the size of the screen. These people are not teaching you to trade. They're teaching you to fund their lifestyle by paying for a course that repackages information you could get for free, wrapped around a strategy that conveniently stopped working the moment they stopped needing new students. Day trading advice from social media deserves its own section because it is genuinely one of the most dangerous trends happening in personal finance right now. Someone posts a chart, calls it a guaranteed setup, uses words like "the market makers don't want you to know this," and within minutes, thousands of people are opening options trading accounts with money they cannot afford to lose. Options trading is not inherently evil. In the hands of someone who understands risk, it's a legitimate tool. In the hands of a 19-year-old who just watched a 90-second video with dramatic music, it's a fast and efficient way to lose a semester of tuition money in a single afternoon. And when it goes wrong, and it almost always goes wrong for beginners following hype, the same influencer just posts their next winning trade the following week like nothing happened, because their business model isn't trading, it's attention. Let's talk about the phrase "pay yourself first" being twisted into something almost cruel. The original idea is solid: save before you spend on anything else. But there's a version of this advice being pushed at people who are genuinely struggling to afford groceries, telling them to invest 15% of their income no matter what, as if discipline alone fixes a wage that doesn't cover rent. Financial advice that ignores the actual economic reality someone is living in isn't advice, it's guilt dressed up as motivation. Not everyone's problem is spending too much on lattes. Some people's problem is that their paycheck simply isn't enough, and no amount of budgeting spreadsheets changes that math. Then there's the classic, "a college degree is worth it no matter the cost." For decades, this was treated as an unquestionable truth, and for a long time it genuinely was solid advice. But somewhere along the way, tuition costs exploded while wages for many degrees stayed flat, and the advice never updated itself. People are still out here telling 18-year-olds to take on $80,000 in debt for a degree with a starting salary of $35,000 a year without ever running the actual numbers together. Nobody sits down with these kids and says, let's calculate what this loan payment looks like against your expected income before you sign. The advice stayed frozen in a decade that no longer exists, and an entire generation is paying the interest on outdated wisdom. Timeshares deserve a mention here too, because somehow, in the year we're living in, people are still being talked into these things at dinner presentations, with free steak and a countdown timer creating fake urgency. This is an investment in your family's future, is the pitch, when in reality, resale value on most timeshares is close to zero. Annual maintenance fees increase every single year, whether you use it or not. And getting out of the contract can be harder than getting out of a lease with the mafia. If a financial product requires a free dinner and high-pressure tactics to get people to sign, that alone should be the loudest warning siren in the room. Multi-level marketing deserves its own trial in the court of financial common sense. This isn't a pyramid scheme. It's a community, is one of the most repeated lies in modern finance culture. The math behind most of these companies is public information, and it consistently shows that the overwhelming majority of participants lose money once you account for what they spend on inventory, starter kits, and mandatory training events. But the advice keeps circulating because it's disguised as female empowerment, side hustle culture, or being your own boss, when the actual structure guarantees that money flows upward to the people at the top and evaporates for everyone underneath them. Now let's talk about the advice that sounds harmless but quietly wrecks emergency funds. Put your emergency fund in the stock market so it grows instead of sitting there doing nothing. This sounds smart. It sounds like optimization. It is actually one of the fastest ways to turn a financial safety net into a financial trapdoor. An emergency fund exists for the exact moment the market crashes and you also lose your job, because recessions tend to bring both at the same time. If your safety money is sitting in stocks and the market drops 30% right when you need to pull it out to cover rent, you're not optimizing. You're selling at a loss during the worst possible moment. Emergency funds belong in boring, accessible, stable accounts, not in growth assets, no matter how tempting the extra return looks on paper. And then there's the advice that should probably be illegal simply because of how casually it's given. Don't check your bank account. It's better for your mental health not to know. This one sounds compassionate, like it's protecting people from anxiety, but in practice, it's one of the most financially destructive habits someone can adopt. Overdraft fees pile up. Subscriptions nobody remembers signing up for keep draining accounts month after month. Bills go unpaid not because someone can't afford them, but because they genuinely forgot they existed. Avoidance doesn't create peace, it just delays the moment of panic to a much worse, much more expensive point in the future. Here's the uncomfortable pattern running through every single one of these examples. Bad financial advice rarely announces itself as bad. It shows up sounding confident, sounding simple, sounding like the secret nobody else wanted you to know. It's delivered by people who either genuinely don't understand the numbers or understand them perfectly and are profiting from you not asking questions. The insurance salesman profits from your ignorance about fees. The influencer profits from your belief that you missed out on easy money. The MLM recruiter profits from your hope that this time will be different. And the well-meaning uncle at Thanksgiving is just repeating something he heard in the 1990s that never got updated for the world you're actually living in. So here's the actual takeaway, and it's simpler than any course, any card, any commission-driven pitch out there. Before you follow financial advice, ask who benefits if you follow it. If the answer is someone other than you, slow down. Real financial guidance holds up when you ask uncomfortable questions. It survives scrutiny. It doesn't need urgency, free steak dinners, screenshots of Lamborghinis, or guilt to convince you. The people selling you certainty in a genuinely uncertain system are the ones you should trust the least, and the advice that sounds too clean, too confident, too good to question is usually the advice that deserves the most scrutiny of all. The next time someone gives you financial advice, don't ask how confident they sound. Ask who benefits if you follow it. That single question can save you more money than almost any investing strategy you'll ever learn. If you found this video helpful, hit the like button and subscribe for more practical, no hype financial content. And before you leave, tell us in the comments, what's the worst financial advice you've ever heard or even followed yourself? Your experience might help someone else avoid making the same mistake. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.